Welcome, Duke alumni and friends, to this session of the Duke Alumni Forever Learning Institute. This virtual series is designed to help you keep learning, stay connected, and grow your Duke network wherever you are. Today, we're kicking off our new professional development series where you will hear from both expert voices and the real-world experiences of fellow Duke alumni. I'm Ann Stevenson, Director of Professional Development on the Lifelong Learning team in the Alumni Engagement and Development Office. And I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us for today's session, Emotional Intelligence, Confidence, Clarity, and Values at Work. We're starting strong with a powerful topic, how emotional intelligence and self-awareness shape the way we show up, how they help us lead with more authenticity and confidence. We'll explore how your personal values can guide your decisions, relationships, and leadership. And we'll introduce tools like Be Do Have framework, which can help you align your mindset, actions, and goals. Whether you're just starting your career, navigating a transition, or rethinking your path, this session is here to help you reconnect with what matters most and lead with purpose. And now I'm delighted to introduce our speaker, Sarah Thorpe Scott. Sarah is a proud Duke alum, Trinity 06, and the founder of Thorpe Scott Coaching and Advisory. She's also a partner at Evolution and a trusted advisor to founders, executives, investors, and multi-generational families. She brings more than 20 years of leadership experience with past roles at the New York Times, Forbes, NBC, and Credit Suisse, and offers a unique perspective on legacy and governance through her own experience in a fifth-generation family business. Based in London, Sarah works with clients around the world, and she currently serves as chair of the development board at the Young Vics Theatre, is an ICF-trained coach, and holds the Financial Times Non-Executive Director Diploma. Sarah, welcome to the Forever Learning Institute. We're so glad you're with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And can you hear me okay? Great. Well, it's lovely to be here with all of y'all. I will ask, I know people are busy and doing this in the middle of work days. If people are able to come off video at any point, even for a little bit, feel free. If you need to turn it off, on again, off again, that's cool. I know everyone's got a lot going on. Hi, it's nice to see so many old faces. And it's nice to see so many people in from all across the States, and maybe we've got some folks in from London. I'm not sure. So I tried to follow Anne's instructions. I'm Duke 2006. I graduated with a degree in public policy. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I lived in New York after Duke, where I was in investment banking and at a series of media organizations that Anne described. And I moved 7 years ago to London with the New York Times, where I was the MD of EMEA and ran a lot of our international advertising business. And I now live here, where I have a 1.5-year-old, and I'm married to another Duke alum who I did not know Duke. He's 6 years younger than me. And we met at a wedding after I'd moved here. So lots of, it was a Duke wedding. So lots of Duke in my life. So excited to be with y'all. Basically, today we're here to talk about emotional intelligence and describe what I do. And I'll just repeat this. At the highest level, I work with corporate leaders and also leaders within family enterprise to help basically set their businesses up for success. I do a lot of work with next gens generally and help executive teams function better. All of that involves a high degree of emotional intelligence. And I'm really excited to talk to young Duke alums today, because I wish this is the stuff that I had been taught when I was younger. And I actually think Duke should have a whole course on that, but that's for another day. I want to just quickly ask you guys too, as I'm chatting, I always think it's fun to see this. Could everybody just put in the window, like in the chat window, like what they wanted to be when they were 5 years old? It may have been more than one thing. What's the one that sticks out most? Curious to hear that. For me, it was an archaeologist. I also wanted to be a news anchor, Heather. Netball player. Love that. I think that sounds very British. Archaeologist, lawyer, rocket scientist, translator, singer, tree climber. Love that. Doctor, astronaut, congresswoman, pediatrician, dentist. Loving these. Is anyone actually one of these things right now? Okay. Yes. Donna Conch. Okay, I was wondering, I was guessing it was going to be the lawyer. That seems like okay. All right. Well, it's always interesting to see. Okay. Um, what what we're going to do today is I'm going to give y'all a number of skills, and I'm packing a lot in, so I'm going to dive in. There's a workbook here that I have to say, like everybody has access to it, and if Anne maybe wants to put in the link for anyone who doesn't in the chat, that would be amazing. I was hoping to get this, so it was one that you could download and type into. Sadly, I could not figure that out. But it should still work. And what I would suggest, just as like a warning of how this should work, is I would just get a sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil. If you're doing this right now, and you can write down the answers and kind of use the workbook later if you want to write on that, if you have not printed it, which I would imagine many people have not gotten a chance to do. We are here to talk about various skills that are going to help you navigate your career. That's the goal. And to thrive professionally. And many of these skills are going to help you thrive personally as well. What I want y'all to do is just turn to page 2 here. And I'm showing this on the screen. Is actually, I'm not. Hold on. Now I'm about to. Okay. This is the workbook. On page 2, I just want you guys to please think about these and quickly write them down. I'm going to give you 90 seconds to just do this, and I'll tell you when we have about 30 seconds left. So it's, what do you want from the workshop? Where do you feel you're struggling most? What's one habit or mindset that could be limiting your progress right now? All right, I'm going to invite you guys to please share, for whoever's feeling brave. I doubt it's anything that's that unexpected. If y'all could please, if put what you're hoping for from today's workshop, just so I have a sense of what the group is after. It'll better help me focus this for y'all. Also, feel free to, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say for people to come, can people come off mic and say something here? Feel free, if you'd prefer, to just come off mute and say something. Okay, insight into the most important skills to develop to be more aligned. Learn skills to better understand and deal with very different points of view. Okay. Antonia, can I ask what you mean by more aligned? Like, more aligned in what sense? I'm also hearing self-awareness about my strengths, priorities at job hunt, learn about common problems holding teams or companies back, especially how to recognize and get people on the same page. Okay. This is sides. I don't know exactly what I'm imagining that's not actually your name. That's interesting. And some of what we're going to do is going to help with that. If you want to talk about that more directly, find me afterwards. Okay. Okay. And then, yeah, aligned, how to understand my own emotions and be stable to best understand other people's or the group's. Great. Anything else anyone else wants to add? Ooh, a clearer picture of what I want during my career pivot. Heather, this is the workshop for you. There's an exact example. Many of these things, these are great. Everything that we're going to do is going to be able to help feed into this. Yep, and would love to identify priorities that drive value faster when working with executives that see everything as urgent. That is a common problem. Okay, I love these. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. All right, so I'm also going to ask, can everybody here, I'm not asking you to do this, but don't worry, but can everyone here like name their top 5 values? Okay, I'm getting hesitation or yeah, okay. Okay, that's very common. And we're going to do an exercise that helps with that. So this sheet on page 3 is a list of values which you can also get if you just Google values Brene Brown. It's from her and it's sourced there. It is my belief, and there's a ton of research around this as well, that a really key component to success and fulfillment is being aligned with our values. And in order to live and work in a way that is aligned with our values, it requires us to first understand our values. It is crazy how little we actually focus on this. And when you basically attach like incredible brains and technical capability and marry them with what values are, amazing things happen. I want to also explain that values are, contrary to what some people think, they are not fixed, they change. And that's okay. It doesn't make people fake or inauthentic. Like, we are humans who evolve and go through different things, and what people value in their 20s is different than what they valued when they were 12. I can assure you, at the age of 41, my values are different than when I was younger. I actually highly suggest that moving forward for the rest of your life, you do a values audit and just know where you are. It's a really powerful tool, really interesting to do with your friends, with your spouses, with family members. And there's a whole way to interpret these, but I think it's very important for us to first even have a sense of our values. And today we're going to do a quick exercise to help get you more clear on what these are. And you can always come back with more time. Ooh, I'm seeing a comment. I love that, Grace. It's so important. It's so important. It's not done enough. I really wish I'd done this when I was like 16. Okay, so you have a list of values, and on page 3, and I will keep this up here, but I'm also going to ask you guys to essentially write down your top 10 values. And then I'm going to ask you to whittle that down. So just, write a list of 1, 2, 3, or 1 to 10. And then I'm going to have you whittle them down to your top 5 values. And then we're going to put them to your top 3 values if you absolutely had to have just 3. I will pause there to ask, are there questions around this? Is everyone understanding this? Does this make sense? Yeah. Yes, it's 10 to 5 to 3. Thank you, Heather. That's perfect. I was going to put that in the chat. I'm going to give you, in reflecting, how do you know what values? That's a great question. I love this group. I would say think about that while you're doing that, and we'll have more time to get into that later. And Catherine, I love that question. I would just get into like, what do you think your top 3 values, top 10, top 5, top 3 for now? And I'm going to leave that purposely vague. Armin, you're a mate. Is it Armin? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes,
I love
Armenia.
that you know these. Armenia. Okay. I love that you know those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys basically, let's go for 5 minutes. I may actually only give you, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. And if people are done earlier than that, and especially I'm looking at the people in the video, maybe just like give me a thumbs up and I'll know, and we can see if we can move on more quickly. All right, everyone. We're going to keep this moving just because we don't have tons of time. It's amazing how quickly an hour goes. What I want to do now is Anne's team is going to help us get this group into Zoom rooms, into pairs. If y'all can, if you can try to come off video just for each other, not so much for me, but really for each other to talk about these things. We're going to basically give y'all until 12:33, basically, to talk through what happened for you as you were doing these values. I have put in the chat window the link here to the DocSend. I think most people have it open, but just as a reminder for those who don't, it's there. So I would love for y'all to just go through these questions as best you can. You're not going to be able to get through all of them, so some of this is going to be homework for later. I would really like y'all to actually tack to, like, what made these three stand out? What did you let go of? Why? How did these values shape your vision of a successful and fulfilling career? And I'll put this here, and I'm hoping, and are people going to be able to see these once they're in their window, in their rooms? These questions that I'm putting here.
No, we can put them in the chat if you'd like.
That would be amazing, just as a reminder. And then, so I would love for y'all to just focus on these 4 questions with each other, and the rest are extra credit. To actually give y'all a real chance, we're going to let y'all be in the rooms till 35, and Anne and team will give y'all a 5-minute warning when it's time for y'all to switch. So just to clarify, you have about 5 minutes each. The 2 of you will have 5 minutes each to basically comment on these questions to each other. And we would also ask, like, please obviously maintain confidentiality with each other. Please don't share other people's stuff when you come back into the room, and just be open and real with each other. Okay, are there any questions before we put y'all into the rooms? All good? Okay. Onward, everyone. So I'd love for all of us to just hear from each other a little bit. I'm curious what came up as common themes. And I'll just remind you, feel free to talk totally candidly and openly about your own stuff. But please just don't say Sarah said XYZ. You could say, I noticed this was a common thing for both of us. Just use your judgment to not air out other people's stuff. Who wants to share either in the chat, and I'd love to hear people speak as well.
I can go. Both of us in the breakout room agreed that the values that we have, unfortunately, even if stated by the company's policies on vision board, usually not the reality in the practices. Even if the strategy defines them as such values, the culture and reality wipes them off from the practice, and they just remain as words on the vision board if at the
Okay.
company level. Whereas at your personal level, you still continue to be true to themselves and suffer from unfairness.
Okay. Just to make sure I heard that right, it's sounding like you're talking about values at the personal level, and also how you're saying that values that are often espoused within a corporate setting are just simply words on a board and not something that necessarily are lived. Is that what I understood? Okay. Okay. What else came up?
In our
What
group,
felt interesting? Oh, yeah.
sorry, Sarah.
No, no,
In our group, we all seem to be kind of looking forward and agreed that these values are something really important to keep in mind to sort of like filter out options as we're moving forward and looking to the future.
Yeah. So a tool to filter out options. Was there anything else that felt either surprising, important, or interesting? And people can feel free to put it in chat as well as speak up. Come on, someone's got something.
Is there like a suggested process on this narrowing in, because in some way there's so much overlap between definitions of a lot of these, and I think really honing down on like what is truly you and what overlaps like personal and professional and sort of everything in your life. I believe there must be sort of a more of a process to truly nail down what the appropriate values are for you. Is that
Yeah.
something you recommend?
Yeah, Russ, I'm so glad you're asking that. So I think what I'm hearing in there, and I saw a lot of head nodding, is just that a lot of people find that experience difficult, and there is absolutely overlap. I don't know if this is going to be a satisfying answer to you, but one thing would just be like more time. We're packing a lot in an hour to just give exposure to a lot of tools. I would print this out and I would sit down with it. Maybe even give yourself like 20 minutes to do it. And I will say you'll have to define for yourself how most people end up finding it as like, okay, these 5 things are important, but I'm going to actually count these other 2 as being an umbrella, like underneath one of the 3. And it just helps you get really clear about how you're defining these things as well. I'm wondering, hopefully that's helpful. On a scale of like, and maybe for people that just have their video on, or you can chat, on a scale of 1 to 5, so you only have to use one hand, 1 being the easiest and 5 being the hardest, how did you find that exercise? Okay, so 2 to 4. Okay, so average. Okay, so challenging. Okay, I would really suggest everybody go take more time to do that. The other thing I want to just say is that values, again, are always aspirational. We can all have values, but no one is living in total alignment with them. So you can choose to change things based on certain practicalities, and it does not make you bad. Sometimes it might be financial stability is a value, and that's okay. And you may want to, over time, have a plan to have it be about something else that has to do more with passion, but just being clear and intentional is super helpful. All right. So there's another thing I want to teach, and this goes back into as well. Someone earlier was asking about leadership teams and motivation and how to get teams to work better. And I think this is actually a sleeper skill. And it has to do with the concept of like what I see all the time with ambitious, switched on, high achieving professionals. And that is this obsession with doing and kind of technical skill. And I think everybody here's a Duke alum, like people who've worked really hard and have worked really hard to get the grades, to get into certain programs, like into university, and also worked really hard to get certain jobs where technical skills are important. And of course, it is important how we do things, but it is also equally important as to how we show up. So there's a framework I want to teach y'all. But before I teach it, actually, I just want to say most senior leaders are thinking constantly, this is a framework really where we think about like the result we want. So if there's something that you want as a leader, like my team needs to release a great new product by the end of Q1 of next year, what they are often dropping down into is all the things like that the team needs to do in order to have that result. Very common. And of course the team needs to do stuff, right? So it's like, what do we need to do in order to have that result? They're very rarely asking themselves, and this is a huge miss, how do I need to be in order for us to do those things? How to have that result? How do we need to be in order to do the things to have the result? So it's not just about doing. And again, like, of course we have to do stuff. You can't just like believe your way into launching a new product that's great by the end of Q1. But you do need to think about how you need to be. So I actually just want to ask to see if that makes any sense for anyone out there. Like, if you are working on something in an organization as part of a team, like, how do you think your boss needs to be, or the team might need to be, in order to do all the things to launch the product? I would love to just get some either people weighing in or just quick answers in the chat. Flexible, great. Be flexible, iterative. Yep. Anything else? I'm going to throw in something. No ego. Yeah. Open. Reflective. Mary, okay, I had this idea that Mary had worked, Mary Helen. I don't know if it's Mary Helen or Mary, but had worked on product hunt given the severe nodding. Okay. Yes, listening. Growth mindset. Okay. Yeah, trusting, right? Like that's a way of being. So I'm showing on the screen, there's a framework for this. But basically you'll see here like the be do have aspect of this. But honestly, if you left with one thing from this workshop, I would ask that it be, how do I need to be in order to do the things to have the result I want? Be do have. It is crazy how we do not ask that of ourselves. And it is just as important as what you're doing. And especially earlier, I mean, it's especially important like for leaders, like CEO, people who are effective CEOs have this mastered. And it is often the difference between really effective leaders and people who are probably more technically competent than most of those incredibly capable leaders. When people are technically competent and they also know how they're thinking about how they need to be and how their teams need to be in order to do great things, you can feel the difference and you see the difference in results. So for instance, I heard someone talking about a career pivot earlier in the chat. One might argue, like, how do you think you need to be in order to do a career pivot? Come on, y'all know this. I'm seeing smiles. Someone can just throw out an idea. Heather, I see you. What's one thing you might need to, a way that you might need to be in order to go through a career pivot? Let go over the old you. Okay, yeah. So you might need to be open to change.
And willing to get back up when you are continually knocked down currently.
Yeah. So resilient, curious. Love that thing. Yeah. Believe. I love that, Deepa. I completely agree. So you're both to do something important, you will find it. Align with a requirement without resistant to change. Okay, so I love also Bianca, brave, Mary Helen, patient. So I would just say, like, we all know we need to be a certain way in order to do certain things. But sometimes when you haven't done that thing, it's really hard. Like some people might be like, all right, lady, that's nice that you expect me to be brave in a career pivot when I haven't done that. But how do I actually do that? Does that resonate at all? Or it's like, oh, you should just be confident. You'll hear that a lot, right? But like, okay. So what I want to give y'all is this other tool that I wish I had been given years ago because it's amazing. It's called the CTFAR framework. So this is for self-awareness and results. This tool is incredible. It's kind of like a sentence diagram. You don't have to do that in middle school English, but it's like instead for your brain is how I think of it. So it's basically a self-coaching model. You can print this out and do this anytime. And it can be used to understand basically how your thoughts create your feelings and drive your actions and ultimately shape your results. So it stands for C is circumstances, T is thoughts, F is feelings, A is actions, R is results. So big takeaway, circumstances do not create our feelings. So like, and I'm not saying that circumstances can't be bad. I'm not here to like be toxically positive or anything like that. But the truth is, it's not like I'm not happy because it's a sunny day in 75. Like I have a thought in between that circumstance and the feelings that makes me feel happy, for instance. So someone else completely neutral circumstance is a fact that's completely that everyone would agree with. So what I'm going to actually do is give you an example here. So here's one. So circumstances, they are objective facts that are out of your control. So they're totally neutral, could be proven in a court of law. So my boss said, we need to talk. is like a thing that happened, right? What happens is we have a thought about that thing that just happened. So some people would be like, oh, I must be in trouble, right? Like we've all had something like this happen. Or like when a romantic partner says we need to talk tonight and it's like sent over a text, like there's a million stories you might be telling yourself over that. Then a feeling happens. So if it's like, if you say I must be in trouble, we can imagine what feeling might come. It's usually not one of elation or confidence or happiness. It would be, for example, here, worry, anxiety, dread, maybe excitement. Feelings are these one-word emotional states. They're not descriptions or thoughts. Thoughts tend to be longer. I also just want to say that with thoughts, we're really good at telling ourselves that the thought is a fact. That feels very viscerally true in our body. It's very rarely actually a fact. It might be true. It's rarely often a fact, though. And then basically what happens after you feel a certain way is you have an action. So what do? You might avoid the boss, over-prepare, panic, procrastinate, lash out, get weird, and like in a meeting with your boss. And then you've got results. So the outcomes are those things that are produced by the actions, which usually reinforce the original thought. So you could avoid the conversation, your boss becomes concerned about your behavior, which also confirms your belief that you're in trouble, right? So again, the biggest thing here is just like, you can be in a completely negative circumstance, like you could have just been fired, right? You have, and I'm not saying that needs to suddenly be a positive thing, but you have control over what you think about that. And there's going to be tons of thoughts that come into your mind whenever anything happens. You have a choice to pick the best thoughts and also to even create better thoughts that help create better feelings. I am conscious that this may sound woo-woo. I swear to God it's not. And I'm going to show you some more examples. So I had guessed someone might want to do career pivoting here. So I have done that, by the way. I'm a former investment banker turned media, like digital media planner, turned senior seller, turned like run big teams and globally at different media organizations. And then I've gone and started my own company doing executive coaching. It could seem all over the map. And when I was doing the last pivot, I had moments where I thought I'd lost my mind. It actually feels incredibly aligned right now. And it's all over around like how you think about things, and how you think about things affects how you show up and how able you are to do these things in the real world. So if you realize you didn't actually like your current career path and wanted to change tack and you haven't taken action yet, you might imagine how colleagues, mentors, or peers would react, right? So I have a number of things here, but basically people think I'm flaky. It'll look like I don't know what I'm doing. People will think I'm unserious or odd for wanting something different. I've invested too much in this path to change now, right? What else might come up as thoughts? Either that you maybe have had in a career pivot, that you see friends having in a career pivot, that you can imagine someone having in a career pivot. What comes up? Anyone? I forget who it was earlier who was thinking about a career pivot. I'm trying to find. Here we go. Yes, classic. Antonia, thank you okay, so I won't succeed. I should just stick with what I'm good at. This is a perfect one too. Let's just say like, I should just stick with what I'm good at. That's a thought that, by the way, the ones that are the most dangerous are the ones that sound really sensible. That doesn't sound crazy to say I should just stick with what I'm good at. But it is a thought that may not be all that helpful, and it's definitely not a fact. There are plenty of people who have not done that, who've been really successful and went and did things that they weren't really good at, and they figured out how to be good at them. So essentially, if you can imagine, Antonia, I love this. If someone were to say, I won't succeed, I should just stick with what I'm good at. what they're probably going to do is feel stagnant and resigned. You could add a number of other feelings, and they're going to stay where they are. Thank you for coming on video, Antonia. And the action is, what are they probably going to do? Antonia, I think nod or shake your head if you disagree with me, but they're probably going to stick to their current thing, right? Like somewhere along that track. Yep. Yeah, they're going to stay. And then the result is they're going to be resentful and angry at themselves. So it's this reinforcing loop, right? What I want us to imagine is the exact same person. What is it different? And this is what I want y'all to try to do. And this, again, I had a coach first show me this, and I was like, this is nuts. There's no other thought. My thought's the right one. My angry, annoyed thought, I'm right. Right? What other thoughts might be possible here instead? Can anybody think of anything that's even just like slightly more positive? Try. Yes, like I think with that, it's like I could try. That's one thought. Or like, what if? Two of the most powerful words. What if I were to try? What if I were successful? I want to find something meaningful. I get to explore newer, exciting things, right? I get to. Also very powerful. I'd write that one down. I get to. What if, and then what if, we tend to say, what if it doesn't work? What if it does, right? With the positive thing. Yes, Heather. Yes, they do. My thought for this was plenty of smart, successful people make pivots. There's tons of evidence for it. Okay. I know we're at that 5-minute warning. Thank you, Anne. So I'm hoping that this makes sense in terms of like how this works. So I would say, if you were to say, I won't succeed, I should just stick with what I'm good at. If you were able to switch that out with any of the other things, being like, I get to explore newer, exciting things, or even just wedge the door open by saying, what if that's not true? Like, what if it were possible? What might that look like? Or I would actually I'd be curious to go talk to people who've done something different. It's a completely different energy. Doesn't even have to change, or like your other thought could still be there. Your other thought might even be true. But you're focusing on a different thought and you get different feelings, and you're going to feel more confident, more curious, more excited, more open. And then you're going to start exploring, and then you're probably going to get closer to changing and having a career pivot. So this is like a small semi-reductive example, but I want y'all to see this. I will pause. There is a map the road ahead, which I want you guys to do. This was meant to be homework. For after this, I want you to think about like one simple thing you can do today, this week, this month, and 6 months, and in a year around your career. Just map it out, make it ridiculously achievable, make it simple. I'll pause. There's a lot I just threw at y'all. Do y'all have questions? Any questions, any comments? Especially where there's skepticism. I'm also happy to chat directly with people too about that. I understand some of these things can be eyebrow raising.
Yeah, I truly believe that the only thing we have control is ourselves. We don't have control of like circumstances or people, what's gonna happen. And I think once we we believe that, it's kind of freeing. And this just happens for me, like raising like teenagers or young adults. I mean, you realize you don't have control, but I have control of myself, and that is liberating, and we can shape.
I love that. Yeah. So that's even a really helpful thought, is like, all I have is control over myself. And even that, the way I said it is probably a little bit sad. It's like, I always have control over myself instead of being so limited. So also 2 more questions to close out. What's one thing from today that resonated with you? It could have also been in chat, could have been something someone else said here. But what's one thing that resonated with you today, and or what's one action you want to take? Being values driven when looking for a transition. I love the CTFAR to always remind me that. I love that, Bianca. It can be a lot to take in at first, I think. How do I need to be? I love that you love that, Heather. I do too. It's amazing. Also so good with your team. Like someone asked this earlier. I don't remember who it was because it's deep in the chat window, but like when you're working with teams, like you don't even need to be the leader of that team. Maybe just ask that if you are trying to get something big, like, okay, how do we need to be? How do we want to be with each other? Maybe, and that might be like, what agreements do we need to make with each other about how we're going to be around this? CTFA for starting a new job tomorrow in a field I'm new to overcome imposter syndrome. Great. Love that, Antonia. Love it. It's so important. Who do I need to be in order to do the work I'm excited about? Also, I know we're almost at time. One other thing I'll add on CTFAR, if you are struggling to come up with a useful thought, ask someone who you deeply respect, who has done the thing you want to do, how they thought about the situation, not what they did, how they did it. Ask them how they thought about it. They're going to have a different thought that's going to be like really helpful. You're like, huh, I could borrow that. I love that.
Wonderful. Oh, this is great, Sarah. And thank you all for participating. This is really fun. Thank you, Sarah, for a great session, and to our audience for joining us today. Today's session was recorded and will be posted to the Duke Alumni Lifelong Learning YouTube channel. Thank you.